Good evening and welcome to Newsmaker Live. Thank you very much for joining us tonight for the program. It's a very serious topic we're discussing. We know that many things have happened throughout the week, but we want to focus tonight on diabetes and hypertension. Yes, we would have spoken about this topic in the past, but it is important enough for us to bring it up again, especially as this month is observed as Diabetes Awareness Month. Also, we don't want to take the usual approach to dealing with the issue of diabetes and also hypertension. We want to focus on something different. And tonight, our focus will be on the cost and the commonness of diabetes and hypertension in our society. We talk about it, but how much exactly does it cost to treat someone who is diabetic? And how much does the food you put into your body cost compared to the cost of taking care of yourself after you have come up with diabetes or after you have developed diabetes? With us this evening, we have Ms. Lydia Atkins. She is the chairperson of the Education and Outreach Committee of the St. Lucia Diabetic Association, Diabetes and Hypertension Association, and someone who has visited us in the past. He is Renal Prosper, the PRO of the Renal... Perseus Prosper, my apologies. Perseus Prosper, the PRO of the Renal Association on St. Lucia. Welcome to the show. I know that you have a lot of very valuable information to share with us. And let's first start with a little background to Diabetes Awareness Month. I know this is what we're observing, and this is the reason that you have decided to come here tonight to share some new information with us.
Yes, thank you very much for having us. The St. Lucia Diabetes and Hypertension Association has been celebrating Diabetes Awareness Month during the month of November. The aim during this month was to create awareness among the general St. Lucian public, to get the information out there and to mobilize persons on the fight against diabetes. Diabetes does not affect just the individual, it does not just affect the person who's suffering with it, but it affects families, it affects societies, and there are implications not just for the individual suffering, but for their family and the wider society.
And Perseus, you have been with us in the past, and you have a very interesting story as well. I'm sure that you'll be sharing some of that story with us as we go through the program. How is your association associated with the Diabetes and Hypertension Association?
Well, like you said, since it's Diabetic Month, and my experiences, been suffering with all the symptoms of diabetes, like you said, we bringing out that educational part of it, sharing my experience so that I could help individuals know what's a first-hand experience of not taking care of diabetes, you know, and bringing my experience and probably my knowledge to the wider, bring up the wider awareness to the public. Sorry.
When we talk about diabetes, there are certain figures bandied around the place. You know, St. Lucia having the highest rate of diabetes and hypertension per capita in the world, and that came out, I think, in 2007 or so, that study. I might be a little off on my year, but I know that it came out around that time, and there was a big song and dance about it, because there was concern immediately that St. Lucia had reached that point, and St. Lucia was had become famous or infamous for something that was not too positive. Since then, what has been our response, and have we been able to sensitize the public enough to see a change in behavior, a change in habits?
Well, the first thing we would need to establish is that among chronic non-communicable diseases, diabetes is the most common globally. There's also has been misinformation out in the public in terms of where it is at St. Lucia rates when we look at the incidence of diabetes. The incidence of diabetes in St. Lucia is estimated at approximately 8.5%. That is way off, this not compared to the figure that was being touted about in 2006, 2007. But that is not to say that we should not be taking action. That is not to say that there are not implications for us in St. Lucia, because one of the things that we have noticed is that while the incidence is 8.57 thereabout, the morbidity and mortality related to diabetes is unusually high for us in St. Lucia. The other thing is that we could never get to the point where we can say that we've done enough, that enough information has been given to the public. Because getting persons to modify, getting persons to change their behavior is something that is extremely difficult. Even for health professionals, it is something that is extremely difficult, persons who have the knowledge. So getting persons to change behavior is a difficult process, so we can never get to the point where we could say that we've done enough or we should stop talking about diabetes or hypertension or any other chronic disease.
Now, at that point, it struck a chord with us in the society. I mean, but still we see fast food businesses still making money, and even more springing up. You see soft drink manufacturers still making the money. We see our use of alcohol not diminishing in any way. That awareness campaign that emerged out of those statistics, albeit misguided in some ways. Do you believe that we did enough, or we were doing enough to change the minds of people, and were people responding to those messages that came out?
There is always scope for increasing our activity as relates to stemming or reducing the incidence of diabetes and hypertension. Health promotion activities where we're seeking to change persons' behavior is not sufficient. There is a need for a multi-sectoral approach when it comes to addressing diabetes, because health policy is not the only policy that we should be looking at. As you mentioned, fast food restaurants and the use of the sale of soft drinks. So many other policies within the government affects affects health. Our food import bill, how it is that we build communities, do we have safe sidewalks that encourage walking? Do we have facilities that encourage sports? When we look at education, because we know that there is a direct relationship between an individual's education level, their socioeconomic status, and the burden of disease that they bear. Because we notice that chronic diseases like diabetes, the highest burden is borne by persons who are from poorer households.
Now, Perseus,
just wanted to extend on that point. I don't think enough has been done, because I was talking from the Renal Association side, the numbers are increasing. More people are falling sick to kidney failure, so that means we need to do more. The numbers are continue increasing in terms of patients coming into dialysis.
Now, let's talk about your peculiar situation, because of course you are a renal patient,
right.
and you get treatment. You have to undergo treatment ever so often, and I say that because you have shared your story with us in the past. Let's take you as an example. What could you have done differently, looking back in retrospect, to put you in a position where you could have managed the disease better and be able to enjoy a fuller life?
Definitely. Okay, let's just go back a little. Diagnosed 22 years ago. Back then and now, it's a lot more different. Right now, you could just go onto the internet and type in diabetes, and you would get pages of information. So back then, I didn't have that education about diabetes. So I was under my mom's care, just listening to mom as a young boy, listening to mom, and growing up. But back then, if I could change and probably educated myself more about the disease, diabetes, the complications, I wouldn't have been in this position I am in right now. So educating, bringing that awareness to the public about the diabetes could prevent the symptoms, kidney failure, eye problems.
Now, one of the challenges, of course, that you face is that, the Renal Association, the St. Lucia Diabetic and Hypertension Association, the resources available to you are very limited, comparatively speaking. A lot of the programs that are in place emanate from the government standpoint, from the Ministry of Health. And the government has the bulk of the resources to deal with those non-communicable diseases, as we call them. Is there not enough assistance from the public to ensure that those messages are disseminated? And also, you know, there are different ways of disseminating the information, because we hear about the health fairs all the time, which is not too sexy, and you don't see people just flooding when you have those activities, or probably the people who might need to visit the most stay away.
Thank you. Well, whether we're looking at it from the perspective of the Diabetes Association, from the Renal Unit Association, or from a government perspective in terms of the Ministry of Health, the resources, be it human resource, be it fiscal resources, to address diabetes, hypertension, chronic diseases, or any disease in this country for that matter, is never going to be sufficient. Health is a sector that is very resource intensive. One of the things that I would want to put forward is that the Ministry of Health is a partner with the Diabetes Association. We can't operate in silos, we can't operate in isolation, so it can't be the mandate of just the Ministry of Health. Neither can it be just the mandate of the Diabetes or Renal Association. We need to begin to work together. Integration is very important, and to ensure that that there's a common thread in the message that we're getting out there.
I find it very, very strange, as we go for a break, that, you know, recently 2 ministries signed an MOU to work together, the Ministry of Sports and the Ministry of Education. And I know that these 2 ministries are integral to spreading the message and building awareness as it relates to healthy living, healthy lifestyles, diabetes, hypertension, and other non-communicable diseases that we have on our island. We'll discuss that a little bit more when we come back on Newsmaker Live. We're here with Lydia Atkins. She is the chairperson of the Education and Outreach Committee of the St. Lucia Diabetes and Hypertension Association, and Perseus Prosper, the PRO of the Renal Association. Stay with us. We'll be back right after this.